In the vast, uncharted reaches of the galaxy, where stars whispered secrets to those daring enough to listen, Eli Thorne found himself on the brink of a mistake that would redefine destiny. He was no ordinary man, a rugged explorer from Earth's distant colonies, with sun-kissed skin from 1,000 alien suns and eyes that held the fire of human curiosity. Eli had always chased the unknown, piloting his sleek starship through wormholes and nebulae, seeking artifacts that could unlock the mysteries of the universe. But on this fateful day, aboard the diplomatic cruiser orbiting Zerathia, the jewel of an ancient alien empire, his pursuit led him astray in ways he could never have imagined. The mission was supposed to be straightforward: negotiate trade alliances with the Zerathians, a race of ethereal beings known for their graceful forms and advanced telepathic technologies. Their world shimmered like a living opal, cities floating on anti-gravity platforms amid swirling auroras. Eli, as the human liaison, had been invited to the Grand Palace for a ceremonial banquet. Dressed in his crisp uniform, he navigated the labyrinthine corridors, the air humming with the soft chime of crystal chandeliers that floated without support. But in his haste, perhaps distracted by the exotic scents of blooming starflowers wafting through the halls, he took a wrong turn. The door he pushed open was not the one leading to the banquet hall. It slid aside with a whisper, revealing a chamber bathed in soft, ethereal light. Velvet drapes in shades of midnight blue cascaded from the ceiling, and the walls were adorned with holographic murals depicting cosmic battles and serene starscapes. In the center stood a grand canopy bed, its silken sheets glowing faintly under the light of a miniature nebula projector. And there, on the far wall, hung a portrait that stopped Eli's heart cold. It was him, undeniably him. The image captured his likeness with stunning precision: his tousled dark hair, the scar above his left eyebrow from a skirmish on Vega Prime, even the subtle smirk that often played on his lips during moments of triumph. But how? He'd never posed for such a thing, never even set foot on Zerathia before this mission. The portrait was framed in ornate silver, as if it were a relic of reverence, not some casual snapshot. Eli's pulse raced, a mix of confusion and adrenaline surging through him. He stepped further into the room, his boots sinking into the plush carpet that felt like walking on clouds. "This can't be real," he muttered under his breath, reaching out to touch the frame. The surface was cool, almost alive with a faint energy hum. As his fingers brushed it, a soft alarm chimed, subtle but enough to make him freeze. Before he could retreat, the door hissed shut behind him. And then, from the adjoining chamber, emerged a figure that stole the breath from his lungs. She was the epitome of otherworldly beauty, Princess Lyra of Zerathia, her long white hair cascading like a waterfall of moonlight over her shoulders. Her skin was a flawless porcelain, glowing with an inner luminescence, and her ears tapered to delicate points, like those of ancient elven lore from Earth's old myths. She wore a gown that clung to her curvaceous form, silken fabric in iridescent hues that shifted with every movement, revealing just enough to ignite the imagination while maintaining an air of regal elegance. Her eyes, a piercing violet, widened in surprise as they locked onto him. "Who dares enter my private sanctum?" Lyra's voice was a melody, laced with the harmonic undertones of her species' natural telepathy. It echoed in Eli's mind as much as his ears, sending a shiver down his spine. She didn't seem afraid, more intrigued, her full lips curving into a subtle smile that hinted at secrets untold. Eli raised his hands in surrender, his mind racing for an explanation. I'm sorry, Your Highness. I must have taken a wrong turn. The corridors, they're like a maze." He glanced back at the portrait, unable to hide his bewilderment. "But that's me. How is that possible?" Lyra tilted her head, her white hair shimmering as she approached with graceful steps. Up close, her presence was intoxicating. A faint scent of jasmine and stardust enveloped him. She studied him, her violet eyes tracing his features as if confirming a long-held dream. "You are Eli Thorne, the human wanderer. The stars have spoken of your coming for centuries. That portrait. It is not from a photograph, but from visions granted by the Oracle of Zerathia. An ancient prophecy foretells of a human savior, one who would bridge our worlds against the encroaching void, a cosmic threat that devours stars and souls alike." Eli blinked, his logical mind struggling to process her words. Prophecies? Visions. This sounded like the stuff of fairy tales, not the hard science he'd built his life around. Yet here he was, face to face with a princess who looked at him as if he were the answer to her prayers. The room seemed to close in, the air thickening with unspoken tension. Lyra reached out, her slender fingers brushing his arm, sending a spark of energy through his skin. It wasn't painful, more like a warm invitation, stirring something deep within him. "The void approaches," she continued, her voice dropping to a whisper that caressed his senses. "Our seers have seen it, a darkness that will consume Zerathia unless united with the unyielding spirit of humanity. You, Ili, are the key, but first, you must understand why fate led you through that door." As she spoke, Ili felt a pull, an inexplicable connection forming between them. Her touch lingered, her eyes holding his with an intensity that made his heart pound. This wasn't just a diplomatic mishap. It was the spark of something profound, a destiny woven in the stars. Little did he know, this accidental intrusion would unravel secrets that could save galaxies or ignite a passion that transcended worlds. Lyra stepped closer, her gown whispering against the floor, and Ili found himself drawn into her orbit. The portrait on the wall seemed to watch them, a silent witness to the unfolding drama. "Stay," she urged softly, her hand now resting on his chest, feeling the rapid beat of his human heart. "Let me show you the visions. Let me show you why you belong here." Ili hesitated, but the allure was undeniable. The banquet, the mission, they faded into irrelevance. In that moment, he was no longer just an explorer. He was the man in the prophecy, standing on the threshold of a love that could conquer the cosmos. As the nebula projector above cast swirling lights across their faces, Lyra leaned in, her lips inches from his ear. "The stars do not make mistakes, Ili. Neither did you." Her words wrapped around him like a promise, igniting a fire that would burn through the barriers of species and space. The chamber's lights dimmed slightly, as if the palace itself conspired to keep them hidden. Ili's mind whirled with questions, but his body responded instinctively, his hand rising to cup her cheek. Her skin was soft, warmer than he expected, and she didn't pull away. Instead, she closed her eyes, a soft sigh escaping her lips. In the heart of Zerathia's palace, amid the hum of ancient energies, two souls from different worlds began to entwine. The cosmic threat loomed, but for now, it was eclipsed by the spark of connection. Ili wondered if this was madness or miracle, but as Lyra's violet eyes opened again, gazing into his with unspoken desire, he knew one thing: he wasn't leaving this room anytime soon. The prophecy spoke of unity, of a savior who would stand against the void. But as their breaths mingled, Ili realized it might demand more than alliance. It might require a bond forged in the fires of passion. The galaxy held its breath, waiting for the human to claim his role, not just as hero, but as the one who could capture a princess's heart. Lyra's fingers traced the line of his jaw, her touch electric. "You have no idea how long I've waited for this face to become real," she murmured. The air between them crackled with anticipation, the wrong door leading to a destiny neither could have foreseen. As the moment stretched, Ili felt the weight of the stars pressing in. This was no ordinary encounter. It was the beginning of a saga where humanity's grit would shine brightest, turning an accidental step into the greatest triumph of all. The palace corridors outside buzzed with the distant sounds of the banquet, but inside, time stood still. Lyra guided him to a nearby divan, her movements fluid and inviting. "Sit with me," she said, her voice a siren call. "Let the visions unfold." Ili complied, his mind a whirlwind of doubt and excitement. As they sat, her thigh brushing against his, she activated a hidden panel. Holographic images sprang to life around them, scenes of swirling darkness, the void devouring planets, and then a figure emerging. A human, strong and defiant, hand in hand with a Zerathian royal. It was them, or at least it could be. Lyra's hand found his again, squeezing gently. "Do you feel it? The pull of fate?" He did. God help him, he did. The explorer in him wanted to run, to analyze, to question. But the man in him, the one who'd stared down black holes and alien storms, leaned in closer, ready to embrace whatever came next. The night deepened, the stars outside the viewport twinkling like conspirators. In that chamber, a human and an alien princess began to weave their stories together, one accidental glance at a time. But the void was not idle. Far beyond Zerathia's borders, shadows stirred, sensing the awakening of the prophesied bond. Ili's mistake was just the beginning. The true test would come soon enough. For now, though, in the glow of the hologram, Lyra's lips curved into a smile that promised worlds of wonder and perhaps a touch of danger. "Welcome home, Eli Thorne," she whispered. And with that, the door to destiny swung wide open. As the holographic visions danced around them like living constellations, Ili felt the weight of Lyra's gaze pulling him deeper into the unknown. Images swirled, planets crumbling into nothingness, stars winking out one by one under the insidious grasp of the void. Yet amid the chaos, there he was, a beacon of human defiance, his form intertwined with hers in a tableau of alliance and something far more intimate. Her hand in his was no longer just a gesture. It was an anchor, warm and insistent, her fingers tracing subtle patterns on his skin that sent tingles racing up his arm. The air in the chamber grew thicker, charged with an energy that hummed between them, as if the prophecy itself was breathing life into their connection. Lyra's violet eyes never left his, their depths swirling with emotions he could barely name, longing, perhaps, or a hunger born from centuries of waiting. "The oracle showed me your face in dreams," she confessed, her voice a low, velvety murmur that wrapped around him like silk. Not just as a savior, but as, more, a partner in the truest sense, one who would bind our essences against the darkness. She shifted closer on the divan, her thigh pressing against his with deliberate softness, the fabric of her gown sliding up just enough to reveal the smooth curve of her leg. Eli swallowed hard, his body responding despite the whirlwind in his mind. This wasn't the cold logic of space exploration. This was raw, uncharted territory, where the line between duty and desire blurred into oblivion. He tried to focus on the hologram, on the dire warnings it projected. The void wasn't some abstract myth, it was a sentient force, a creeping entropy that fed on life itself, twisting realities and erasing civilizations. The visions showed Zerathian fleets crumbling, their elegant ships dissolving into shadows. But then came the turning point, a human figure, him arriving like a storm, rallying the remnants with ingenuity and sheer willpower. And at his side, Lyra, her white hair flowing like a banner of hope, their hands clasped in a pose that suggested not just alliance, but unity of body and soul. The image lingered, zooming in on their intertwined forms, and Eli felt a flush creep up his neck. Was this prophecy or manipulation, or something fate had scripted long before he was born? Lyra sensed his turmoil, her telepathic gifts brushing against his thoughts like a gentle breeze. "You doubt," she said softly, leaning in until her breath warmed his cheek. Her scent, exotic, like blooming orchids under alien moons, enveloped him, making it hard to think straight. "But feel this." With a graceful motion, she placed his hand over her heart, just above the low neckline of her gown. Through the thin fabric, he could feel the rapid flutter of her pulse, syncing oddly with his own. It was electric, a spark that jumped between them, igniting nerves he didn't know he had. Her skin was impossibly soft, glowing faintly as if lit from within, and the curve of her breast rose and fell with each breath, drawing his eyes despite his best efforts. Eli's breath hitched. This is insane. I'm just a guy from the colonies, not some prophesied hero." But even as he spoke, his fingers lingered, tracing the edge of her collarbone without conscious thought. The room seemed to conspire against his resolve, the lights dimming further, the nebula projector casting swirling patterns that danced across her porcelain skin, highlighting the elegant points of her ears and the inviting swell of her hips. She was a vision of ethereal allure, her body a perfect blend of grace and sensuality, designed by evolution or gods to captivate. And captivate she did. Eli felt a stirring deep within, a primal pull that warred with the explorer's caution etched into his bones. She smiled, a slow, knowing curve of her full lips that promised secrets yet to be unveiled. Insane or inevitable? Her free hand rose to his face, cupping his jaw with a touch that was both tender and possessive. Her nails, painted in shimmering stardust hues, grazed his stubble, sending shivers down his spine. The void hungers for isolation, for division. It thrives on worlds apart, but you and I, we are the bridge. As she spoke, she shifted again, her body aligning more closely with his, her curves molding against his side in a way that left little to the imagination. The gown's fabric was sheer in places, teasing glimpses of what lay beneath, and Eli's mind raced with forbidden thoughts. How her skin might feel under his palms, how her lips might taste like the essence of distant galaxies. The hologram flickered, showing a more intimate scene, the two of them in a chamber much like this one, bodies entwined in a ritual of bonding. It wasn't explicit, but the implication hung heavy in the air, a suspenseful promise of what the prophecy demanded. Unity, it seemed, required more than words or treaties. It called for a merging of spirits, perhaps even flesh. Eli's heart pounded, a drumbeat echoing the growing tension. Was this seduction or sincerity? The void's shadow loomed in the visions, a dark tendril reaching toward Zerathia, but here, in this moment, it felt distant compared to the heat building between them. Lyra's eyes darkened, her pupils dilating as she read his unspoken desires. The oracle warned that the bond must be willing, forged in trust and passion. Her voice dropped to a husky whisper, her lips brushing his ear as she leaned in. The contact was electric, a jolt that traveled straight to his core. He could feel the warmth of her breath, the subtle vibration of her words against his skin. Her hand slid from his jaw to the nape of his neck, fingers threading through his hair with a gentle tug that made him inhale sharply. "Tell me, Eli, do you feel the fire? The one that could light the stars against the dark?" He did. Oh, how he did. His body betrayed him, leaning into her touch, his free hand finding the small of her back, pulling her closer without a second thought. The fabric of her gown was like liquid under his fingers, warm and inviting, and beneath it, the firmness of her form pressed against him. Suspense hung in the air like a charged storm. Would he give in to this cosmic pull or pull away from the edge? The palace outside remained oblivious, the banquet's laughter faint through the walls, but in here, the world narrowed to just them, two beings on the precipice of something profound and dangerously alluring. As their faces drew nearer, lips hovering mere inches apart, a subtle alarm pulsed through the room, not the earlier chime, but something deeper, a warning from the palace's core systems. Lyra tensed, her body still flush against his, but her eyes flicked to the hologram. The void's image intensified, showing tendrils inching closer to Zerathia's orbit. "It's accelerating," she breathed, her voice laced with urgency that only heightened the erotic tension. "We have little time. The bond, it must begin now, or all is lost." Eli's mind reeled, desire clashing with the creeping dread. Her lips parted slightly, inviting, and he felt the magnetic draw, the suspense building to an unbearable peak. What would happen if he closed the distance? Would it seal their fates or unleash something uncontrollable? Her hand tightened in his hair, urging him forward, her curves shifting against him in a way that made rational thought flee. The chamber's air grew heavier, scented with her essence and the faint ozone of the hologram. Eli's resolve wavered, his lips brushing hers in the lightest of touches, a spark that promised explosion. But just as the moment teetered on the edge, a distant rumble echoed through the palace, a harbinger of the approaching threat. Lyra pulled back fractionally, her eyes burning with unquenched fire. "Not yet," she whispered, though her body screamed otherwise. But soon, the stars demand it. The suspense coiled tighter, the erotic undercurrent pulsing like a living thing between them. Eli knew then that this was no mere accident. It was a web of fate, drawing him into her world, her arms, her destiny. And as the visions swirled on, showing glimpses of their potential union, he wondered how long he could resist the inevitable pull. Her fingers trailed down his chest, lingering over the buttons of his uniform, each touch a question, a tease. The room seemed to breathe with them, the lights pulsing in rhythm with their hearts. Outside, the void stirred, but inside, a different kind of storm brewed, one of passion and peril, where humanity's savior might find his greatest weakness in the arms of an alien princess. Lyra's gaze held him captive, her body a siren's call he couldn't ignore. "Show me your strength, Eli," she murmured, her voice a caress. "Prove the prophecy right." He leaned in again, the air crackling with anticipation, the erotic tension wrapping around them like invisible threads. The hologram faded slightly, leaving them in a cocoon of dim light where every breath, every glance built the suspense to new heights. What secrets would her touch reveal? What dangers lurked in surrender? As her lips finally met his in a tentative kiss, soft, exploratory, laced with the promise of more, Eli felt the galaxy shift. It was a kiss born of stars and shadows, erotic in its restraint, suspenseful in its implications. Her taste was like nectar from forbidden fruits, sweet and intoxicating, drawing him deeper. But even as passion ignited, the distant rumble grew louder, a reminder that their bond was the key to survival or destruction. Lyra moaned softly against his mouth, her hands exploring the contours of his shoulders, pulling him into the web of desire. The night stretched before them, filled with whispers and touches, each one heightening the erotic dance, each one edging closer to the heart of the prophecy. In that chamber, amid the swirling lights, Eli surrendered to the moment, his human fire meeting her ethereal grace. The void could wait, for now, this was their universe, suspenseful and sensually alive. The kiss deepened, a vortex of sensation that pulled Eli under like a black hole's inescapable gravity, her lips moving against his with a fervor that matched the storm raging in his chest. Lyra's hands roamed with increasing urgency, fingers deftly unfastening the clasps of his uniform, as if she'd studied him in those prophetic dreams for lifetimes. Her body arched into him, the curves of her form pressing insistently, her white hair spilling over them like a cascade of starlight. Eli's own hands explored the silk of her gown, sliding it from her shoulders to reveal the luminous glow of her skin, flawless and inviting, her pointed ears twitching slightly with each gasp she drew from him. The erotic haze enveloped them, but beneath it, the distant rumble grew insistent, vibrating through the palace walls like the growl of an awakening beast. Suddenly, the chamber shuddered violently, the nebula projector flickering erratically as alarms blared to life, sharp, piercing tones that shattered the intimate cocoon they'd woven. Lyra broke the kiss with a startled cry, her violet eyes widening in terror as she clutched at him. The void, it's here. Faster than the visions foretold. Eli's instincts kicked in, the explorer's edge sharpening his senses. He pulled her close, scanning the room as holographic alerts materialized in the air, projecting feeds from Zerathia's orbital defenses, dark tendrils of nothingness snaking through space, coiling around the planet's shields like predatory vines. Ships in the fleet were already engaging, laser fire blooming in silent explosions against the encroaching shadow, but the void absorbed it all, growing stronger. Hungrier, adrenaline surged through Eli, mixing with the lingering heat of their embrace. He grabbed his discarded communicator from the divan, barking into it. "This is Thorne, status report." "What's hitting us?" Static crackled back, then a frantic voice from the diplomatic cruiser. "Unknown anomaly, sir. It's breaching the outer perimeter, defenses failing. Evacuate the palace." Lyra's face paled, her hands trembling as she activated a hidden console, summoning a swarm of drones that hummed to life around them. "The prophecy didn't show this acceleration," she whispered, her voice laced with dread. "It must sense our bond forming, it's trying to stop us before we unite fully." The thrill of danger electrified the air, turning their sanctuary into a war room. Eli's mind raced, piecing together fragments from the visions. The void wasn't just a force, it was intelligent, adaptive, feeding on fear and division. And now, it targeted them directly. A massive jolt rocked the palace, sending them stumbling into each other's arms. Cracks spiderwebbed across the walls, the holographic murals distorting into nightmarish shapes. Lyra's gown hung loosely now, her exposed shoulders heaving with rapid breaths, but there was no time for modesty, their survival hung by a thread. "Stay with me," Eli commanded, his voice steady despite the chaos, embodying that unyielding human spirit the prophecy exalted. He scooped up a fallen energy pistol from a nearby pedestal, Zerathian tech, sleek and humming with power, and thrust it into her hands. "We fight together." Her eyes met his, a spark of determination igniting amid the fear, her fingers wrapping around the weapon with surprising resolve. But curiosity gnawed at him. Why him? What made a lone human the key to this cosmic puzzle? As if reading his thoughts, Lyra pressed a palm to his forehead, flooding his mind with flashes, ancient Zerathian lore, where humans were mythologized as chaos bringers, wild forces that could disrupt even the void's entropy. The palace groaned under another assault, and suddenly the far wall buckled inward, a rift tearing open like a wound in reality. Through it poured shadows, tendrils of the void manifesting physically writhing masses of inky blackness that sucked light from the room. Eli fired first, the pistol's beam slicing through one, dissipating it in a burst of ethereal sparks. Thrilling energy coursed through him. This was no simulation, no drill, this was raw. Life or death combat against the universe's ultimate predator. Lyra joined in, her shots precise and graceful, her telepathic link guiding his aim subconsciously. "It's probing for weaknesses," she shouted over the din, dodging a lashing tendril that shattered the canopy bed into splinters. In the midst of the fray, a surprising revelation hit Eli like a comet. The portrait on the wall, now flickering under the assault, wasn't just a vision. It pulsed with energy, syncing with his heartbeat. He glanced at it, and in that instant, memories not his own flooded in. Lyra's ancestors had engineered a genetic beacon, a call across stars to summon a human compatible with their royal line. He wasn't random, he was chosen, his DNA a perfect match to amplify Zerathian powers. "You're part of this," he gasped, parrying a shadow with a burst of fire. Lyra nodded, her white hair whipping as she spun, her body a blur of lethal elegance. "The bond awakens latent abilities in us both. Feel it." And he did. A surge of power rippled through him, heightening his senses, the room's details sharpened, time seeming to slow as he anticipated the void's strikes. Dramatic tension peaked as more rifts opened, the chamber filling with writhing darkness. Lyra cried out as a tendril grazed her arm, drawing a line of shimmering blood that evaporated into mist. Eli's heart clenched protective fury fueling him. He charged forward, unleashing a barrage that sealed one rift, but another erupted behind them, pulling at Lyra like a vacuum. Thrilling chase ensued. Eli grabbed her waist, yanking her back just as the shadow lunged. They rolled across the carpet, bodies entangled in a desperate embrace amid the debris. "We can't hold here," he panted, his face inches from hers, the curiosity burning. What if the bond required more than fight? What if it demanded completion right now in the eye of the storm? Lyra's eyes locked on his, violet depths swirling with unspoken pleas. The ritual, it must be sealed to repel this, she urged, her hand pressing against his chest where their hearts beat in frantic unison. But surprise struck like lightning. From the portrait's frame, a hidden compartment burst open, revealing an artifact, a crystalline orb pulsing with inner light. It levitated toward them, drawn by their proximity. The Heart of Zerathia, Lyra breathed, awe mixing with the drama. It activates only for the true pair. As Eli touched it, visions exploded in his mind. Not just defense, but offense, a way to strike at the void's core. The orb amplified his human ingenuity, suggesting a plan. Channel their bond through it to create a feedback loop, turning the void's hunger against itself. The climax built relentlessly. Shadows converged, forming a colossal entity in the room's center, a swirling vortex with eyes like dying stars. It roared silently, a psychic scream that clawed at their minds. Eli and Lyra stood back to back, the orb between them, their hands linking over it. "Now," she cried, pouring their essences into it, will, passion, the spark from their earlier kiss. The orb ignited, blasting a wave of radiant energy. The entity recoiled, tendrils flailing as the light pierced its form, unraveling it thread by thread. Thrilling reversals followed. Just as victory seemed near, the entity lashed out one final time, slamming Eli against the wall, wind knocked from him. Pain flared, but Lyra's scream fueled his rise. "Eli?" She channeled more power, her body glowing, the erotic undercurrent from before transforming into fierce, protective love. He staggered forward, adding his strength, and together they shattered the entity, sealing the rifts with a deafening boom. The room fell silent, debris settling like fallen stars. Eli slumped against Lyra, both breathless, her arms wrapping around him in an embrace that mixed relief and lingering desire. But curiosity lingered. The void had retreated, but not vanished. What surprises lay in its wake? The orb dimmed in their hands, a symbol of their unfinished bond. Dramatic echoes reverberated, the palace stabilized, but alerts warned of greater assaults brewing. In that charged aftermath, Eli looked at her, the thrill of survival heightening every sensation. "We did it, for now." Lyra's lips brushed his forehead, a promise amid the ruins. But the true climax awaits. The prophecy demands we complete what we started. Surprise flickered in her eyes as the orb hummed again, revealing a hidden map to the void's heart, a journey only they could undertake. The galaxy trembled, but in their union, humanity's triumph stirred. Eli felt it. He was no longer just a man, he was the storm that would redefine the stars. Yet questions swirled. What other secrets did Lyra hold? What if the bond changed him forever? The drama pulsed on, thrilling and unending as they prepared for the next wave. Smoke curled from shattered consoles, the air thick with ozone, and the faint scent of her blood. Eli helped her stand, their bodies still humming with shared energy. "Tell me everything," he demanded softly, curiosity burning brighter than ever. Lyra nodded, her pointed ears twitching as distant reinforcements echoed through the corridors. But before she could speak, a new alarm blared, a fleet approaching, not Zerathian but something else. Surprise twisted her features. Allies or foes? The thrill intensified. The climax wasn't over, it was evolving. Eli gripped the orb tighter, ready for whatever came next, his human resilience shining through the chaos. In Lyra's eyes, he saw reflection, hero, lover, savior. The stars aligned, but the void whispered promises of more surprises, drawing them deeper into the unknown. As guards burst into the chamber, weapons drawn, Lyra raised a hand to halt them. "He is the one," she declared dramatically. Murmurs rippled through the ranks, eyes widening at the sight of the activated orb. Eli stood tall, the weight of destiny thrilling in his veins. But inwardly, curiosity gnawed. What price would this bond exact? The night had only begun its surprises, the galaxy holding its breath for the human who stumbled into legend. As the guards lowered their weapons in deference to Lyra's command, the chamber filled with a tense hush, broken only by the faint crackle of settling debris and the distant wail of palace sirens. Eli stood there, orb in hand, feeling the weight of a dozen violet-eyed stares boring into him like laser sights. He was still catching his breath, uniform disheveled from the tussle, with Lyra's arm linked through his in a possessive grip that sent mixed signals, part protection, part claim. The drama escalated in an instant. One guard, a burly Zerathian with armor that shimmered like liquid metal, stepped forward, his pointed ears flattening in suspicion. "Your Highness, the human, the prophecies are clear, but this intruder?" His tone dripped with skepticism, heightening the stakes as murmurs rippled through the group like a gathering storm. Lyra straightened, her gown still askew from their earlier entanglement, revealing more of her luminous skin than royal protocol probably allowed. She shot the guard a glare that could melt asteroids. "He is no intruder, Captain Vex. He is the fulfillment, the one whose essence repelled the void's vanguard. Behold the heart of Zerathia, awakened in his grasp." She gestured to the orb, which pulsed softly in Eli's palm, casting ethereal glows across the ruined room. But as all eyes turned to him, Eli felt an awkward flush creep up his neck. Here he was, a scruffy human from the backwater colonies, suddenly the center of an alien court drama, holding what looked like a fancy glow ball while half-dressed royalty clung to him. It was like stumbling into a space opera vid, except the script had gone off the rails. Trying to play it cool, Eli cleared his throat. Yes, hi everyone, name's Eli Thorne, just your average guy who took a wrong turn and ended up saving the day. I think." He offered a lopsided grin, hoping for some levity, but the guards exchanged baffled glances, their telepathic whispers buzzing in his head like static, courtesy of the budding bond with Lyra. One younger guard stifled a chuckle, earning a sharp elbow from his comrade. The humor landed awkwardly, like a joke at a funeral, but it broke the ice just enough to keep the tension from boiling over. The captain, Vex, wasn't amused. He circled them slowly, his boots crunching over shattered crystal, drama building with each step. "The council will demand proof. The void's assault was no coincidence. It struck the moment he arrived. How do we know he's not a harbinger?" Lyra's eyes flashed, her white hair seeming to bristle. "Because I know, Vex, the visions don't lie." But even as she defended him, Eli caught her stealing a glance at his rumpled state, a faint blush tinting her porcelain cheeks. Awkward didn't begin to cover it. Their almost intimate moment hung in the air like an unspoken secret, and now they had an audience. Eli shifted uncomfortably, realizing his uniform pants were torn at the knee from the roll across the floor, exposing a scrape that stung like hell. Great, he thought. Nothing says prophesied savior like looking like you lost a fight with a blender. To heighten the drama, a holographic projection suddenly materialized in the center of the room, the High Oracle herself, an elderly Zerathian with hair like flowing silver rivers and eyes that pierced souls. Her image flickered, distorted by residual void interference. "Princess Lyra, the breach is contained, but the entity probes our borders anew. The human, he must undergo the trial of essence immediately. Only then can the bond be sanctified." The guards gasped collectively, and Eli's stomach dropped. Trial? What fresh hell was this? Lyra's grip tightened on his arm, her nails digging in just a bit too hard. "Oracle, he's not prepared. The prophecy? Prepared or not, the stars demand it." The oracle intoned, her voice echoing like thunder in a nebula. The projection vanished, leaving the room heavier with anticipation. Vex smirked faintly. "The trial it is. Follow me, human, if you dare." Eli shot Lyra a sideways look, whispering, "Trial, like a quiz. Or are we talking gladiatorial combat with space monsters?" She leaned in, her breath warm against his ear, sending an involuntary shiver down his spine despite the chaos. "It's intimate, a merging of minds and auras to prove compatibility, but with the void accelerating, it could be dangerous." Her violet eyes held a mix of worry and that lingering fire from before, making the situation even more awkward. How do you prepare for a psychic date night while the apocalypse knocks? As the guards escorted them through the palace's winding halls, the drama unfolded like a tightly wound coil. Alarms blared intermittently, red lights pulsing along the walls, and distant explosions rattled the floating structure. Eli tried to keep pace, but his human legs ached from the earlier fight, and Lyra's graceful strides made him feel like a clumsy sidekick. To add a dash of humor, one guard, the young one who'd chuckled earlier, tripped over a piece of debris in his haste, face-planting with a metallic clang. "Smooth," Eli quipped under his breath, earning a muffled laugh from Lyra that she quickly disguised as a cough. Vex glared back. "This is no jest, outsider. The trial chamber awaits." They arrived at a massive arched door, engraved with swirling runes that glowed ominously. Inside, the chamber was a cavernous dome, walls lined with crystalline amplifiers that hummed with latent energy. In the center floated a platform, surrounded by a moat of swirling plasma, beautiful, but one wrong step and you'd be toast. The oracle's acolytes, robed figures with hooded faces, chanted softly, their voices weaving an ethereal melody that raised goosebumps on Eli's skin. Lyra turned to him, her expression a storm of emotions. "Eli, in the trial, our minds will link fully. You'll see my deepest thoughts and I yours. No secrets." The awkwardness peaked. Eli's mind flashed to embarrassing memories, That time he botched a landing on Mars and face-planted in red dust, or his awkward first date back on Earth where he spilled soup everywhere. Great, he muttered. Nothing like bearing your soul to a princess while the universe tries to eat us. Vex positioned them on the platform, the plasma mote igniting with a whoosh that made Eli jump. Begin, the captain commanded, stepping back with the guards. The crystals activated, beams of light converging on them like spotlights in a cosmic theater. Lyra took Eli's hands, her touch electric, pulling him into the drama's heart. "Trust me," she whispered. As their auras merged, a surge hit. Visions flooded Eli's mind. Lyra's childhood in the floating palaces, her loneliness as heir, her secret fascination with human tales of rebellion and romance smuggled from Earth broadcasts. But then came the surprises, awkward ones. He saw her practicing human kisses in front of a mirror, mimicking vids with comical exaggeration, her pointed ears twitching in frustration. Eli couldn't help but snort mid-vision. "You practiced on a hologram of me?" Her mental response was a mix of embarrassment and defiance. It was research. Humans are unpredictable. The humor lightened the intensity, but the drama surged as the void interfered. Dark whispers crept into the link, twisting memories into nightmares. Eli relived his worst fears, losing his crew in a black hole accident, isolation in the void of space. Lyra gasped, sharing the pain, her own traumas surfacing, watching her mother succumb to a cosmic plague, the weight of a throne she never wanted. The platform shook, plasma flaring as the link strained. "Fight it," Lyra urged mentally, her essence wrapping around his like a shield. In a thrilling twist, Eli's human humor became their weapon. He flooded the link with absurd memories, dancing badly to old Earth tunes in his ship, making faces at alien diplomats during boring meetings. The void recoiled from the chaos, its orderly entropy disrupted by laughter's unpredictability. Lyra joined in, sharing her own faux pas, once mistaking a human ambassador's handshake for a mating ritual, leading to a diplomatic incident that still made her court giggle. The awkward hilarity built, heightening the drama as the crystals overloaded, beams fracturing like fireworks. But the void struck back viciously, a massive psychic backlash that hurled them apart on the platform. Eli skidded to the edge, teetering over the plasma moat, heart pounding. "Eli!" Lyra screamed. Lunging for him, guards rushed forward, but Vex held them back. The trial must conclude unaided. Drama peaked as Eli grabbed her outstretched hand, pulling himself up, their bodies colliding in a tangle. Breathless, they locked eyes, the link stabilizing with a resonant hum. The crystals dimmed, the oracle's voice echoing. "The bond holds, he is worthy." Relief washed over them, but awkwardness lingered. Eli realized the entire court had witnessed their mental exchange, including those embarrassing bits. Vex cleared his throat, averting his eyes. Well, that was enlightening. A few guards snickered, and even Lyra hid a smile behind her hand. Eli rubbed his neck. Note to self, next time edit the memories. The humor diffused the tension, but the drama wasn't done. A new alert blared, the Void's main fleet approaching Zerathia's core. "We must rally the alliances," Lyra said, standing tall, "with you at my side." As they exited the chamber, Eli felt the shift, humanity's grit infused with Zerathian grace, turning awkward mishaps into legendary tales. But questions brewed. What if the bond revealed more secrets? The palace trembled again, heightening the urgency. Vex, now begrudgingly respectful, led them to the war room. "Your humor may have saved you, human. Let's see if it saves us all." In the corridors, Lyra squeezed his hand. "You were brilliant and ridiculous." Eli grinned. "That's my specialty." The drama coiled tighter, awkward moments weaving into the fabric of their destiny, with just enough humor to keep the stars from falling. Yet as they approached the war room, a surprising transmission crackled through. Human ships arriving, drawn by distress signals. Eli's old crew? The plot thickened, promising more drama, more awkward reunions. "This just got interesting," he murmured, stepping into the fray with Lyra by his side. The war room buzzed with holograms of battle formations, advisors arguing strategies. Lyra took her place at the head, pulling Eli beside her. "We unite now or fall." Drama hung heavy, but Eli's presence injected a spark of human optimism. "Hey, if I can survive your mind meld without dying of embarrassment, we can handle this." Laughter rippled faintly, lightening the mood amid the storm. As plans unfolded, awkward situations arose. An advisor mistook Eli's slang for battle cry, leading to a comical miscommunication that had the room in stitches before correcting. The humor bonded them, heightening resolve. But the void loomed larger, its shadows encroaching. Eli gripped the orb, ready for the next chapter in this cosmic roller coaster. As the war room's holographic displays flickered with incoming data, Zerathian fleets repositioning, human reinforcement streaking through hyperspace like comets, Eli felt the orb's warmth pulsing in his grip, a steady reminder of the bond he and Lyra shared. The advisors huddled around the central table, their voices a symphony of strategy and urgency, but Lyra's presence beside him drew his focus like gravity. She leaned in close during a brief lull, her white hair brushing his shoulder, her violet eyes locking onto his with an intensity that made the room's chaos fade. "We need a moment alone," she murmured, her hand slipping under the table to squeeze his thigh, a subtle, intimate gesture that sent a spark through him, heightening the already electric atmosphere. The void's threat pressed on, but so did the unfinished pull of their connection, demanding completion to unlock its full power. Eli nodded, his pulse quickening at her touch. "Lead the way." They excused themselves under the pretense of consulting the orb privately, slipping out a side door into a dimly lit corridor where the palace's hum softened to a whisper. The awkward humor from moments ago lingered in his mind, but now it melted into something deeper, more primal. Lyra guided him to an adjacent antechamber, a secluded space reserved for royal reflection, its walls lined with soft, glowing tapestries that depicted ancient unions under starlit skies. The door sealed behind them with a soft click, and suddenly, the weight of the galaxy outside felt distant, replaced by the intimate reality of just the two of them. She turned to him, her gown still bearing the marks of battle, torn at the hem, clinging to her curves in ways that accentuated her ethereal form. "The bond isn't complete, Eli," she said softly, stepping closer until their bodies nearly touched. "The trial showed us glimpses, but to truly repel the void, we must merge fully, mind, spirit, and body." Her words carried a vulnerability, her pointed ears flushing slightly as she reached up to trace the line of his jaw, her fingers warm and inviting. Eli felt a rush of heat, his body responding to her proximity, the earlier sparks of desire reigniting into a steady flame. This wasn't just about prophecy, it was about them, two souls from different worlds finding solace in each other amid the storm. He pulled her into his arms, his hands settling on the small of her back, feeling the smooth texture of her skin through the thin fabric. "Then let's finish it," he whispered, his voice husky with emotion. Their lips met in a kiss that built slowly, tenderly at first, exploring the contours of each other's mouths with a gentleness that belied the urgency. Lyra's taste was sweet, like the essence of blooming night flowers, and as the kiss deepened, her body pressed against his, her curves molding perfectly to his frame. She sighed into him, her hands roaming up his chest, unfastening the remnants of his uniform with deliberate care, revealing the taut muscles beneath. The antechamber's lights dimmed automatically, as if sensing their need for privacy, casting a soft, ambient glow that danced across her porcelain skin. Eli's fingers traced the elegant points of her ears, eliciting a soft gasp from her, a sound that stirred him deeply, making his heart race. He lifted her gently, setting her on a plush lounger draped in silken fabrics, their bodies aligning in a natural rhythm. Lyra's gown slipped from her shoulders, pooling around her waist, exposing the graceful swell of her form, her skin shimmering with that inner luminescence that made her seem otherworldly yet so achingly real. "You're beautiful," he breathed, his hands exploring her with reverence, caressing the soft rises and valleys that made her unique. She arched into his touch, her violet eyes half-lidded with desire, her white hair fanning out like a halo. "And you make me feel alive, Eli, like the stars themselves are within reach." Her legs wrapped around him as he leaned over her, their movements syncing in a dance of intimacy that felt both instinctive and profound. He kissed a trail down her neck, savoring the warmth of her pulse, the way her body responded with subtle shivers. The bond amplified every sensation, the telepathic link weaving their thoughts together, sharing waves of pleasure that echoed between them, building a shared ecstasy that transcended words. As they came together fully, it was a gentle union at first, bodies moving in harmony, each touch a promise of unity against the darkness outside. Lyra's hands gripped his shoulders, her nails leaving faint trails that only heightened the connection. The rhythm quickened, driven by the mutual need to seal their fates, their breaths mingling in soft moans that filled the space. Eli felt her essence envelop him, not just physically but spiritually, the prophecy's power surging through them like a current, amplifying the intimacy into something cosmic. Her curves pressed against him, her form yielding yet strong, guiding him deeper into the moment where nothing else existed but their shared bliss. Time blurred as they explored each other, discovering the ways their differences enhanced the pleasure, her telepathic whispers in his mind urging him on, his human strength providing a grounding force that made her gasp in delight. The orb, set aside on a nearby pedestal, began to glow brighter, resonating with their union, its light pulsing in time with their heartbeats. Lyra's body trembled beneath him, her pointed ears twitching with each wave of sensation, her luminous skin flushing with a soft, rosy hue. "Eli?" "Yes," she whispered, her voice a melody of encouragement, pulling him closer as they reached the peak together, a crescendo of shared release that washed over them like a stellar wave. In the afterglow, they lay entwined, bodies slick with the evidence of their passion, breaths slowing in unison. Lyra's head rested on his chest, her white hair draping over him like a protective veil. "The bond is sealed," she murmured, her fingers tracing lazy patterns on his skin. "I can feel it stronger now, ready to face the void." Eli held her close, marveling at the depth of their connection, the way it had transformed from accidental encounter to this profound intimacy. But even in this serene moment, the palace's distant alarms reminded them of the battle ahead, the orbs glow a beacon calling them back to action. She lifted her head, her violet eyes sparkling with newfound energy. "We should return. The others will need us." Eli nodded, stealing one more kiss. A soft, lingering one that promised more moments like this once the threat passed. They dressed slowly, hands brushing in accidental touches that sparked lingering warmth, the awkward tenderness of post-intimacy making them share quiet smiles. As they stepped back into the corridor, the bond thrummed between them, a silent vow that their union would be the light piercing the darkness. Back in the war room, the advisors noted their return with subtle glances, perhaps sensing the shift in their auras, but no one commented, the urgency of the void's advance taking precedence. Eli felt empowered, his human resolve bolstered by the intimacy they'd shared, ready to channel it into the fight. Lyra stood taller beside him, her hand finding his under the table once more, a secret anchor amid the strategy sessions. The holographic maps showed the enemy closing in, but now, with their bond complete, a new plan emerged, using the orb as a conduit to broadcast their unified energy across the fleets, turning the tide. As discussions intensified, Eli couldn't shake the warmth of her touch, the memory of their time alone fueling his determination. The void might hunger for division, but in their closeness, they'd found unbreakable strength. The drama of the cosmos unfolded, but in that shared secret, humanity's triumph felt closer than ever. Yet, as the first waves of battle alerts blared, Lyra leaned in. "Whatever comes, we face it together." Eli squeezed her hand, the intimate bond a quiet force amid the storm, promising that their story was far from over. The human ships arrived on the displays, hailing the palace. "Thorne, you old dog, we're here to back you up." His old captain's voice crackled through, injecting a familiar camaraderie. Lyra smiled at him, her eyes holding that post-union glow. "Your people, they're as resilient as you." The room buzzed with renewed hope, the sealed bond radiating confidence. In the heart of Zerathia, amid the encroaching shadows, Eli and Lyra's intimacy became the spark that could ignite victory. The stars aligned, their union a testament to the power of connection in the face of oblivion. As the human ships materialized on the holographic displays like guardians emerging from the warp, their sleek hulls cutting through the starfield with the unmistakable grit of Earth's engineering, the war room erupted in a chorus of relieved exclamations. Eli's old captain, Jax, grinned through the comm link, his weathered face filling a side panel. "Thorne, you sly fox, heard you were playing hero on some fancy alien rock. We've got your back. These birds are loaded for bear." Lyra watched the exchange with a soft smile, her hand still intertwined with Eli's under the table, the warmth of their recent intimacy lingering like a secret pulse between them. She turned to him, her violet eyes reflecting the glow of the maps. "Your kin arrive at the perfect hour. With our fleets combined, the void won't stand a chance." The advisors nodded vigorously, plotting convergence points where human firepower could bolster Zerathian shields, the room alive with a renewed sense of invincibility. Eli felt a swell of pride, humanity's ragtag resilience shining through, turning the tide in this cosmic chess game. He squeezed Lyra's hand, leaning in to whisper, "See, we humans don't just stumble into destiny, we crash the party." She chuckled lightly, her pointed ears twitching in that endearing way. But before she could reply, the orb on the table hummed louder, its crystalline surface rippling with unexplained energy. Vex, ever the vigilant captain, furrowed his brow. "The heart senses something, perhaps a surge from the bond?" Lyra placed her free hand on it, closing her eyes as if listening to a distant song. "It's amplifying our strategies. We should deploy immediately, strike the void's forward tendrils before they regroup." The plan solidified quickly. a joint assault, with Eli and Lyra at the command helm of the flagship, channeling the orb's power to disrupt the void's entropy fields. As preparations hummed around them, guards relaying orders, technicians syncing human and Zerathian tech, Eli couldn't shake a subtle unease, like a shadow flickering at the edge of his vision. The bond thrummed stronger now, weaving their thoughts in subtle threads, and he caught flashes from Lyra. Her confidence, her affection, but also a buried whisper of doubt. He brushed it aside, attributing it to battle nerves. "Let's get to the bridge," he said, standing and pulling her with him. The group moved as one, corridors blurring in their haste, the palace's anti-grav lifts whisking them upward to the command deck. On the bridge, the viewport offered a breathtaking panorama. Zerathia's swirling auroras below, the void's dark nebula encroaching like a living ink blot on the horizon, and the human fleet forming up in precise formations. Destroyers with railguns humming, fighters swarming like angry hornets. Jax's voice crackled over the open channel. "Linking systems now. Thorne, your princess got any fancy tricks up her sleeve?" Lyra stepped to the central console, the orb slotting into a receptacle that made the entire ship vibrate with enhanced power. "More than tricks," she replied, her voice steady. "Unity." As she activated the link, a wave of energy pulsed outward, syncing the fleets in a web of shared telemetry. Shields strengthened, weapons calibrated. It was poetry in motion, humanity's brute force tempered by Zerathian elegance. Eli stood beside her, monitoring the readouts, his mind half in the bond, feeling her focus like an extension of his own. The first engagement loomed, a void vanguard, a cluster of shadowy constructs warping space around them. "Engage," Lyra commanded, and the fleet surged forward. Lasers lanced out, human missiles streaking in tandem with Zerathian plasma bolts. The void responded with tendrils that lashed like whips, absorbing hits and countering with disorienting pulses that scrambled sensors. But the orb's influence held firm, repelling the assaults with feedback loops that turned the darkness against itself. Cheers echoed on the bridge as the first constructs shattered, dissipating into harmless vapor. Yet, as the battle intensified, the orb's hum shifted from harmonious to discordant, like a note souring in a symphony. Lyra frowned, her hand pressing harder on the console. "Something's interfering. The bond. It's pulling at memories again." Eli felt it too, flashes invading his mind, not just theirs but deeper, older. He saw glimpses of ancient Zerathian councils, debates over harnessing forbidden energies, and then a face. His face, but not quite, older, wearier, etched with lines of command. "What the hell?" he muttered, gripping the railing as the ship rocked from a near miss. The human ships pressed the attack. Jax barking orders. "Flank 'em, boys, show these shadows what Earth grit looks like." The twist struck without warning, a revelation exploding through the bond like a supernova. As the orb overheated, projecting unsolicited visions across the bridge's holograms for all to see, Eli staggered back. The images clarified. Centuries ago, a human explorer, not unlike him, had crash-landed on Zerathia, not by accident, but as part of a covert Earth operation to scout alien worlds. That human, Captain Elias Thorne, Eli's great-grandfather, hadn't just allied with the Zerathians. He'd fathered a child with their queen in a desperate bid to forge peace amid a prior cosmic threat. But the surprise deepened. The child was Lyra's direct ancestor, making her part human, her ethereal features masking a hybrid lineage. The prophecy wasn't about a random savior. It was a genetic recall, drawing Eli back to complete a bloodline engineered to combat such threats. Gasps filled the bridge. Vex's eyes widened in shock. "Hybrid? The royal line? Tainted?" Lyra whirled to Eli, her violet eyes brimming with a mix of horror and realization. I didn't know. The oracle concealed it to protect the throne." But the true bombshell hit as the visions continued. The void wasn't a natural force. It was a failsafe, a weaponized anomaly created by ancient Zerathians to eradicate impure elements. Activated now because the bond had awakened the dormant human DNA in Lyra, marking her as a target. The surprise twisted Eli's gut. All this time, the enemy wasn't external. It was a self-inflicted curse, born from Zerathian prejudice against interspecies unions, now turning on their own princess. Eli reeled, the bond flooding him with Lyra's turmoil, her ignorance, her fear, but also her love, untainted by the revelation. "Eli, please, this changes nothing between us." But it changed everything. The human fleet, sensing the disruption through the synced links, hesitated. Jax's voice cut in, urgent. "Thorne, what's going on? Our sensors are going haywire. Looks like the shadows are targeting your ship specifically." Indeed, the void converged, drawn not to Zerathia broadly, but to Lyra, the impurity at its core. Alarms blared as tendrils hammered the shields, the ship buckling under the assault. In the chaos, Eli grabbed Lyra's shoulders, pulling her close amid the sparking consoles. "We use this. If you're part human, then the bond is stronger than they ever planned." The surprise fueled his resolve. Humanity's chaotic bloodline wasn't a weakness. It was the wild card the ancients feared. Vex, torn between loyalty and shock, barked orders to reinforce defenses. If the princess is hybrid, then perhaps the human is right. Fight with it. The bridge crew, stunned but adaptive, rallied, channeling the orb's erratic energy into a counterpulse. The twist propelled the battle into frenzy. Void constructs morphed, adapting to target genetic signatures, but Eli's ingenuity shone. Drawing on the bond, he improvised, hacking the orb's interface with human code snippets from his communicator, turning the failsafe against itself. Lyra, embracing her heritage, amplified it with her telepathy, her white hair glowing as human resilience surged through her veins. Together, they unleashed a radiant burst that fractured the vanguard, the shadows recoiling as if burned by an unfamiliar light. Yet the surprise lingered, questions swirling. Why hide the truth? Was the Oracle complicit? As the fleets regrouped, Jax patched through again. "Eli, that light show you okay? And who's the hybrid bombshell?" Eli glanced at Lyra, her hand in his, the bond now a bridge over the revelation's chasm. "Long story, Jax, but yeah, we're family now in more ways than one." She met his gaze, vulnerability raw. "Forgive me for what I didn't know." He pulled her into a quick embrace, the crew averting eyes respectfully. "Nothing to forgive, this just makes us stronger." The void, sensing the shift, retreated temporarily, but its core loomed larger on the horizon, a massive nexus pulsing with ancient malice. The twist had appended everything, turning prophecy into personal legacy, enemy into echo of past sins. Eli felt the weight. He wasn't just a savior. He was the missing piece in a fractured bloodline, destined to heal what Zerathia had broken. As they plotted the final push, the bond whispered promises of victory, of love beyond stars, but also warnings of deeper secrets yet to unfold. Lyra leaned against him, her body warm and familiar. "The ancients feared us, hybrids as harbingers of change, but with you, I see hope." Eli nodded, the surprise settling into determination. The human ships flanked them, a united front against the self-made apocalypse. Vex, now an unlikely ally, saluted. To the core, then, for Zerathia and humanity. As the flagship accelerated, the twist's aftershocks rippled. Advisors whispered of reforms, of embracing the hybrid truth. Eli wondered about his lineage. Did Earth know? But for now, the battle called. The orb stabilized, its power magnified by the revelation, ready to strike at the heart of the deception. In the viewport, the void's nexus awaited, a swirling maw of forgotten hubris. Eli and Lyra stood ready, their union the ultimate surprise, a force the ancients never anticipated. The stars held their breath, the galaxy on the cusp of transformation. But as they closed in, the orb flickered once more, hinting at one final layer, a voice faint and familiar echoing from the nexus itself. Eli Thorne's voice, Eli's ancestor, trapped in the void's code, a digital ghost. "Descendant, free me." The surprise deepened. The battle wasn't just destruction, it was rescue, redemption across generations. Eli's eyes widened. "Grandpa?" Lyra gasped. The failsafe imprisoned him, the source of the human DNA trigger. The twist coiled tighter, personal stakes skyrocketing. They dove into the fray, lasers blazing, the bond their guiding light through the darkness. Humanity's triumph wasn't accidental, it was ancestral, a legacy reborn in fire and fusion. As tendrils lashed, Eli channeled the voice, hacking deeper, Lyra weaving telepathic threads to pull the ghost free. The nexus cracked, light piercing the void, the surprise unfolding into catharsis. The fleets cheered as the core destabilized, but Eli focused on the emerging form, a holographic echo of his forebear, smiling faintly. "Well done, lad, finish it." With a final surge, they shattered the nexus, the void imploding in a spectacular collapse. Yet in the victory's glow, Elias's echo lingered. Beware, the failsafe had siblings. Other worlds hide similar shadows. The twist promised more horizons, but for now, peace settled. Eli held Lyra close, their hybrid future bright. The galaxy exhaled, changed forever by the surprise of blood and bond. As the Nexus's implosion lit up the viewport like a dying star's final gasp, the flagship trembled one last time before stabilizing, the void's remnants scattering into harmless wisps across the void. Cheers erupted on the bridge, Zerathian guards clapping each other on the back, human comms crackling with whoops and Jax's booming laugh echoing through the speakers. "That's how we do it, Thorne," kicked that shadow's ass back to whatever hell it crawled from. Eli stood there, Lyra in his arms, her body fitting against his like a puzzle piece finally clicked into place. The bond hummed with a quiet satisfaction, Elias's holographic echo fading with a nod of approval, his spectral form dissolving into the orb's glow. "You've done what I couldn't, lad. But remember, shadows have siblings. Stay vigilant." The warning hung in the air, but for a heartbeat, victory tasted sweet, a rare moment of reprieve in the cosmic whirlwind. Lyra pulled back slightly, her violet eyes searching his, a mix of triumph and tenderness swirling in their depths. "We did it, Eli, together." But as the adrenaline ebbed, the drama began to swell anew, like a tide pulling at hidden undercurrents. The bridge crew turned their attention to the pair, Vex clearing his throat with an exaggerated cough that drew awkward glances. "Your Highness," and the hybrid savior, he said, his tone caught between deference and discomfort, his pointed ears twitching as if unsure how to process the revelations. The word hybrid landed like a misplaced asteroid, heightening the tension. Lyra's royal lineage, once pure in Zerathian eyes, now exposed as a blend of worlds, thanks to Elias's long-buried affair. Whispers rippled through the advisors, one muttering just loud enough, "The throne, tainted by human blood." Eli felt the shift, his arm tightening around Lyra's waist protectively, but the situation veered into awkward territory faster than a miscalculated hyperspace jump. Jax's hologram popped up larger on the main screen, his grizzled face beaming. "So, Eli, introduce me to your lady friend properly. And what's this about family ties? You holding out on us, you old space dog." The human captain's wink was pure mischief, but it hit at the worst moment. Lyra's cheeks flushed a soft lavender, her luminous skin betraying her embarrassment as the entire bridge overheard. Eli stammered, "Jax, timing man, this is Princess Lyra of Zerathia, and yeah, turns out we're, related, distantly." The words tumbled out clumsily, and a young Zerathian technician snorted, quickly covering it with a fake sneeze. Humor crept in uninvited, lightening the drama just enough to keep everyone from imploding, but Eli wanted to crawl into an airlock. Related to the woman he just bonded with in every sense? The bond pulsed with Lyra's own mortification, a telepathic echo of stars, not like that. Vex stepped forward, trying to restore order, but his formality only amplified the awkwardness. "The council must be informed immediately. A hybrid heir, this could fracture alliances." His voice boomed, but he tripped over a loose cable from the battle damage, stumbling forward and nearly face-planting into the console. The crew held their breaths, then burst into nervous laughter as Vex righted himself, muttering curses in Zerathian that the bond translated for Eli as something like, "clumsy as a human hatchling." Eli couldn't help but grin. "Hey, Captain, you okay? Gravity's a bitch sometimes." Vex shot him a glare, but the corner of his mouth twitched, diffusing some tension. Lyra hid her smile behind her hand, her white hair falling forward like a curtain, but the drama lurked beneath. How would Zerathia react to their princess being part human? Would the throne survive the scandal? As repairs hummed around them, technicians scurrying to patch flickering panels, human engineers beaming in via shuttle to lend a hand, the situation escalated into a full-blown diplomatic circus. Jax insisted on a virtual toast, projecting holographic glasses of Earth whiskey into the bridge. "To kicking cosmic butt. And to family reunions, Eli, you sly bastard, bagging a princess who's basically your great-aunt or something." The joke landed like a photon torpedo, the bridge falling silent before erupting in a mix of gasps and chuckles. Lyra's eyes widened in horror, her pointed ears pinning back. "It's not, we're not. The lineage is diluted over generations." She protested, her voice a melodic squeak that only made Jax laugh harder. Eli facepalmed, the awkwardness peaking as he tried to explain. "Jax, shut it, it's like 10th cousins removed or whatever. Not weird at all." But inside, the bond buzzed with shared embarrassment, Lyra's thoughts flashing images of royal protocols shattered by this human chaos. Humor saved the day again, though. Even Vex cracked a reluctant smile. "Humans and their relations. Perhaps it's why you're so resilient, endless surprises." The drama heightened as the council convened via emergency hologram, their stern faces materializing in a circle around the bridge like judgmental ghosts. The High Oracle, her silver hair coiled in intricate braids, fixed her gaze on Lyra. "Princess, the revelations from the orb, they challenge our very foundations. A human infusion in the bloodline, the purists will riot." Lyra stood tall, her hand finding Eli's for support, but the awkward undercurrent surged when an elderly counselor squinted at Eli. "And this specimen is the key. He looks like he hasn't seen a proper grooming chamber in cycles." Eli ran a hand through his tousled hair. self-conscious under the scrutiny. Hey, battling interdimensional shadows doesn't leave time for spa days. The quip drew a few titters, but the counselor's frown deepened, heightening the stakes. Zerathia's conservative factions could demand Lyra's abdication, splintering the alliance just when unity was crucial. To make matters worse, Elias's echo flickered back to life unexpectedly from the orb, his ghostly form materializing mid-argument. Listen here, you stiff-necked stargazers, my blood saved your hides once, and it'll do it again. Eli's got the grit you lot lack. The council gasped at the audacity, the ancient human's gruff tone clashing with their refined decorum. Lyra stifled a laugh, but Eli groaned inwardly. This was like bringing a rowdy uncle to a fancy dinner. Grandpa, maybe dial it back. Elias winked. Nah, kid, they need shaking up. The humor undercut the drama, but it also humanized the moment, reminding everyone of the hybrid strength at play. Vex, surprisingly, nodded. The ancestor speaks truth. We've hidden too long behind purity myths. As debates raged, counselors arguing over genetic scans, purists demanding isolation while progressives hailed the bond as evolution, the awkward situations piled on. A human engineer, fresh from the shuttle, burst onto the bridge with tools in hand, oblivious to the hologram summit. Thorne, heard you hooked up with royalty, congrats man. He slapped Eli on the back, nearly knocking him into Lyra, who caught him with a graceful twirl that turned into an accidental embrace. The council's eyes bulged, Elias's echo guffawing. That's my boy, clumsy charm wins the day. Lyra's blush returned, but she played it off with a regal smile. Humans, so exuberant. Eli muttered apologies, the drama swirling as the engineer realized his faux pas and backed away, tripping over the same cable Vex had earlier. Laughter broke the tension again, a little humor acting as the glue holding the fracturing alliance together. Yet the stakes climbed higher when scouts reported stirrings, residual void pockets activating on Zerathia's moons, siblings, as Elias warned, drawn by the hybrid signal. They're evolving, Vex announced, his voice grave. Targeting hybrid signatures specifically. The council hologram flickered with alarm, one advisor proposing a radical solution: suppress Lyra's human traits with ancient tech, essentially purifying her. Lyra recoiled, her hand clutching Eli's tighter. I won't deny who I am, not for fear. The drama peaked, emotional undercurrents surging as Eli stepped forward. You do that and you lose us both. Humanity doesn't back down from what makes us strong. Elias's echo chimed in. Damn right, fight with what you've got or lose it all. Awkwardness ensued when the Oracle suggested a public bonding ceremony to legitimize their union, broadcasting it galaxy-wide to rally support. A display of hybrid power, she intoned. Eli's eyes widened. Like, a wedding, now? Lyra's ears flushed again, the bond flooding with her mix of excitement and nerves. Jax, still on comms, hooted. Eli getting hitched, I'll bring the beer. The council murmured approvals, but Eli felt like a deer in headlights, proposing in the midst of apocalypse prep. Lyra, you cool with this? She nodded, a shy smile breaking through. If it unites us? Yes. Humor softened the moment as Elias quipped, make it quick, kids, shadows don't wait for honeymoons. Preparations blurred into frenzy. Fleets repositioning to the moons, human and Zerathian crews mingling in hasty alliances. Awkward cultural clashes arose, a Zerathian guard mistaking a human high five for a challenge, leading to a comical standoff resolved with shared rations. Vex, warming to the humans, tried Earth slang and butchered it hilariously. Let's kick some void posterior. Eli laughed, clapping him on the shoulder. Close enough, buddy. But drama loomed as the first moon assault began, shadows rising like vengeful spirits, targeting Lyra's signature through the bond. In the command chair, Eli and Lyra coordinated, their union a beacon. A tendril breached shields, rocking the ship, and in the chaos, Eli's chair malfunctioned, dumping him into Lyra's lap. Not the time, she exclaimed, but they both laughed amid the alarms, humor cutting through fear. Vex barked orders, Elias's echo guiding tactics. Hit him where it hurts the core nodes. The battle intensified, drama heightening with each near miss, a human fighter saved by Zerathian drones, alliances forging in fire. Awkward revelations surfaced, Elias admitting his affair started with a wrong door mishap, mirroring Eli's entry. History repeats, eh? He chuckled. Lyra rolled her eyes. Men and doors, eternal trouble. As shadows fell one by one, the council conceded. Hybrids were the future. The ceremony loomed post-battle, a dramatic capstone. Eli whispered to Lyra, ready for forever? She kissed him softly. With you, always. Humor lingered in Jax's final quip. Don't forget the cake. Victory neared, but siblings stirred elsewhere. promising ongoing drama. For now, in the heat of battle and awkward bonds, they pressed on, humanity's spirit shining brightest. As the last of the Void's siblings crumbled under the combined onslaught, shadowy forms dissipating into glittering particles that drifted harmlessly into space. The flagship's bridge erupted in a wave of jubilation that echoed through every corridor and comm link. Human fighters zipped triumphant loops around Zerathian cruisers, their pilots exchanging virtual high-fives with alien counterparts who'd moments ago been strangers. Jax's voice boomed over the speakers, laced with that rough Earth humor that had become a bomb amid the chaos. "Well, if that ain't a rap, I don't know what is. Thorne, you and your princess just saved the galaxy. Drinks on me when we dock." Eli stood at the viewport, Lyra nestled against his side, her white hair catching the light of Zerathia's auroras below like a crown of captured stars. The bond between them pulsed with a quiet harmony now, the earlier awkwardness fading into the warmth of shared victory, Elias's echo having dissolved with a final, proud whisper. "Carry on the line, kid. Make it better than I did." The drama of the battle lingered in the air like the faint ozone from overloaded shields, but as the fleets regrouped, a sense of closure began to settle. Vex approached, his armor scuffed but his posture straight, offering a formal bow that carried newfound respect. "The threats are quelled, Your Highness. The Council signals their assent, the ceremony can proceed." Lyra nodded, her violet eyes meeting Eli's with a depth that spoke volumes, the hybrid truth no longer a fracture but a foundation. "Then let's make it official," she said softly, her fingers intertwining with his. The awkward proposal from earlier transformed into something profound, a promise forged in the fires of conflict and laughter. Eli felt a swell in his chest, not just the thrill of survival, but the realization that this wrong door had led him home. They moved to the palace's grand atrium, a vast chamber open to the stars, where floating platforms hovered amid cascading light vines that bloomed in celebration. The council holograms flickered to life around them, their stern faces softened by the day's events, purists and progressives alike conceding to the power of unity. Human delegates beamed in via shuttle, Jax leading the pack with a crate of contraband earth ale under one arm, his grin infectious. "Couldn't miss my boy's big day," he quipped, clapping Eli on the back hard enough to make him stagger. Lyra laughed, a melodic sound that eased any remaining tension, her pointed ears perking up as she accepted an awkward hug from the burly captain. "Your customs are enthusiastic," she teased, but her eyes sparkled with genuine warmth. The humor wove through the gathering like a gentle thread, turning potential stiffness into a tapestry of cross-cultural joy. Zerathians tentatively trying human toasts, humans marveling at telepathic light shows that painted the air with memories of the battle. As the oracle stepped forward, her silver robes flowing like liquid moonlight, the ceremony began with a simplicity that belied its significance. No grand pomp, just the essence of two worlds merging. She placed the orb between Eli and Lyra, its glow now steady and bright, a symbol of their sealed bond. "In the name of the stars that birthed us," she intoned, her voice resonating through the atrium, "you unite not just hearts but destinies. Human fire and Zerathian grace, hybrid strength to light the void." Eli took Lyra's hands, his calloused palms against her soft ones, and spoke from the heart, his voice steady despite the emotion welling up. "I came here by mistake, but staying, that's the best choice I've ever made. You're my stars, Lyra, my guide through the dark." Tears shimmered in her eyes, her luminous skin glowing brighter as she replied, "And you, Eli, are my chaos, my strength. In you, I found the humanity I never knew I carried, and the love that makes it all worthwhile." The orb flared as they kissed, a gentle union that sealed the vows, energy rippling outward in waves that touched every soul present. Cheers rose, human whoops mixing with Zerathian harmonics, creating a symphony of celebration. Jax raised his glass high. "To Eli and Lyra, may your adventures be less apocalyptic from here on out." Laughter followed, the awkward family ties now a source of fond jests rather than division. Even Vex joined in, clinking a crystalline goblet with a human engineer, his earlier skepticism melted away. "Perhaps humans aren't so bad," he admitted gruffly, earning a playful elbow from Eli. "High praise, Captain. We'll make a hybrid out of you yet." In the quiet hours that followed, as the gathering dispersed into smaller clusters, stories shared over feasts of blended cuisines, earth barbecues sizzling alongside Zerathian nectar fruits, Eli and Lyra slipped away to a private balcony overlooking the planet's swirling seas. The auroras danced above, painting the sky in hues of emerald and violet, a living testament to the world's renewed vitality. She leaned against him, her head on his shoulder, the gown she'd changed into, a flowing garment that blended human simplicity with Zerathian elegance, whispering softly in the breeze. "What now, my love? The void is gone," but Elias warned of siblings elsewhere. Ili wrapped an arm around her, pulling her close, the bond allowing him to feel her quiet hope mirroring his own. "Now, we build. Explore together your grace, my grit, and if shadows rise again, we'll face them as one. But first, peace, real peace." He thought back to that fateful wrong turn, the portrait that had stared back at him like a mirror to destiny. It wasn't just a prophecy fulfilled, it was lives intertwined, cultures bridged, a galaxy made stronger by embracing the unexpected. Lyra tilted her head up, her lips brushing his in a kiss that carried the promise of endless tomorrows. "I never imagined a human could capture my heart so completely," she murmured. Ili smiled, tracing the point of her ear with a gentle finger. "And I never thought an alien princess would be my perfect match. Guess the stars knew better." As the night deepened, they stood there, watching shuttles ferry between ships, alliances solidifying into friendships. Jax's laughter carried from below, Vex's voice joining in a tentative joke about human clumsiness. The oracle's words echoed in Ili's mind, unity against the dark. But now it was more love conquering all, humanity's unyielding spirit proving that even in the vastness of space, connection was the ultimate power. Years later, as their children, hybrids with Ili's dark hair and Lyra's violet eyes, played under Zerathia's suns, tales of the great bonding spread across the stars. Ili, now a seasoned ambassador, would regale gatherings with the story, always starting with that wrong door. "Fate doesn't knock," he'd say with a wink. "It just lets you stumble in." Lyra, ever the graceful queen, would add, "And sometimes that's exactly where you belong." The galaxy flourished, shadows kept at bay by the light of their legacy. No more voids to fill, only horizons to chase. And in quiet moments, Ili and Lyra would steal away, hands linked, hearts bonded, proving that the greatest triumphs weren't in battles won, but in love's eternal. The end came not with a bang, but with the soft hum of contentment, two souls from distant worlds weaving a future brighter than any star. In the tapestry of the cosmos, their story shone as a beacon. Humanity, fuck yeah, and love above all.